Senator, did you ask the governor to support George McGovern?
George Wallace, there you go. Governor, we ought to let's see. I just talked very briefly about the national campaign. He will speak for himself and his own, express his position on that, and you'll have an opportunity to talk to him, I'm sure.
Governor Wallace happened to be the presidential candidate in 1976 of the Democratic Party. Would you run on the ticket with him?
Well, we've got a nominee at the present time. I'm supporting the nominee. I hope he'll be elected, and we'll have an opportunity to support him for re-election.
Senator Kennedy, what persuaded you to come to Auburn at this particular time?
The invitation by the student body has been long-standing and continuous, and I've welcomed the opportunity to be here. I want to talk about some of the things that are of concern to me on the national scene, and I think are of interest to the people of Alabama. The Founding Fathers wanted the testing of different ideas every 4 years in national elections, and now is the time where these ideas are being tested. I believe the young people here in Alabama are as interested as young people in Massachusetts. They've indicated some interest in my views. I plan to talk about them.
Senator, how important do you think Governor Wallace's endorsement or non-endorsement will be to the president?
Well, the governor has won a myriad of supporters in his campaigns throughout the North, in my own state of Massachusetts, and he has those that look to him for leadership, and his support would be meaningful to any national ticket. Okay, thanks very, very much. Thank you.
Much of anything because of the very limited time, but I think the senator will come in to see.
Sound off. I think
I was in Washington for the Cherry Blossom Festival.
Oh, that's good.
Represented Alabama.
Nothing worth repeating, I don't believe. We may have touched the subject briefly in passing, but the focus was mainly social.
Can you give us the gist of the conversation at all?
Well, I think it's a private visit. I'd prefer to keep it that way, and I'm sure the governor would.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you.
You might get involved in the presidential.
Oh, I might, you might decide to support one of the candidates publicly, but I'm not sure about that. Frankly, I'm spending most of my time recuperating and attending to the affairs of my own state. So I've been in national politics for a pretty good while, so I'm going to rest a little while from that.
So your neutrality is for today and the immediate future, but not necessarily permanent.
Well, no one can tell what the future holds.
Today's stop in Alabama by Mr. Agnew could be considered a crucial one, not so much as far as the vice president is concerned, but rather in a measure of strength as it affects local Republican candidates. It could also prove another thing. Can Mr. Agnew be as influential in Alabama this election year as Governor Wallace has been in swaying the electorate? George Mitchell, WSFA TV News at the Governor's Mansion in Montgomery.
I might say a word.
As some of you know, over in Plains, early Wednesday morning, about 2:15, I got a call from Governor Wallace, and glad to support me then, and said that he would do all he could to induce the delegates who were committed to him to support me. And I told him that I'd be over here before the end of this week to thank him personally, and I'm very grateful to him for having done that. And following his public endorsement, we very quickly got the endorsements of several others who have many delegates looking to them for leadership. We are contacting every delegate individually. Governor Wallace is helping those who look to him for leadership, and others are doing the same. We've now gone past, I would say, 1,650 delegates who have pledged to us, and we're only counting those who give us their personal commitment. And talking for a while about the special support. And we've run a very good campaign, you know, and formidable opponent for anyone is
What's mine, George?
Go ahead, Jeff. Go ahead.
Governor Wallace, what kind of things do you expect? About specific issues?
Governor Wallace gets the nomination, the Democratic Party has to come to the opponent for any race he chooses. You would ask about the proposition that if Governor Wallace is the nominee of the party, would I support him? Well, I would support him against the Republicans. I would not get involved in the Democratic primary. The passion of the civil rights act and the movement of race equality in the country is things I think is major factor.
Governor Carter, is this a change in regard from the old South to the new South?
Well, I wouldn't want to categorize that, you know, after the certainly got well, tax reform, welfare, Governor Wallace show. I have already met with two shots. The week ago. Monday. We don't have press conference. Well, I did emphasize the fact that I couldn't get the press conference. The media press conference.
With great pride, we recognize your host who has moved mountains in the past few days to make this celebration
have an opportunity. Just let me say this one thing, and I say in a very personal sense. I thank you for coming out in such great numbers to welcome me and Governor Wallace and the other guests on this occasion. But I thank you for reminding all of America that here in the heart of Dixie, we find that the heart of America is good, the character of America is strong, and we are going to continue to be.
Let me say, it is in that spirit that I come here today, for that is the true spirit of America. George Wallace almost lost his life. He sits before you in a wheelchair today because of his belief in that spirit. Two of my brothers have been killed because they shared that belief. And I don't see the Governor Wallace or I, the people of Massachusetts or the people of Alabama, are going to give up that right to anyone, however great his power and however high his office. This administration, masquerading as conservative, has taken the most radical steps toward considering the spirit of our revolution and the protections of the Constitution. They administer the nation's business through men hidden in the White House, men responsible neither to Congress nor the public, men who cannot be compelled to account for their actions or even to disclose them. They have transformed institutions into instruments of intimidation and control, turning to their own benefit not only agencies of intelligence and law enforcement, but an immense mechanism of economic sanction and reward. Because the spirit of America is still,
I think our hearts went out to his family and all of those connected with him and with the late president and with Senator Bobby Kennedy. At the time they lost their lives, you might say, in speaking out for what they themselves believed in these United States.
Governor and Mrs. And there are many in the Democratic Party and across this country who disagree with both of us. But we have one thing in common. We don't corrupt, we don't malign, we don't abuse the trust which the people have given us. We don't compile lists of enemies whose careers and lives are to be shattered because of their disagreement. We don't use the tactics of a criminal or the power of the law to silence those whose ideas or politics are different than our own. thing that George Wallace stands for. It is the right of every American to speak his mind and be heard, fearlessly and in any part of this country. And abuse power which belongs to the Congress, to the states, and to the sovereign people, and indeed have assumed power which the Constitution refuses to any man or to any body of men. 175 years ago, Thomas Jefferson warned us to strictly enforce restraints on the executive. He predicted that an executive which seeks to silence and punish all those who may be obnoxious to the views of the president, or marked by the suspicions of the president, or thought dangerous to his elections or other interests.
Dr. Senator Kennedy and his wife visited me in the hospital in Maryland and told me that when he was in the hospital some months or years ago, that his doctors told him he was not going to ever walk again, but you can see he walks very well and good, and he wanted to try to cheer me up. I appreciate you coming to cheer me up. Well, I'm very much in favor of NATO, and it should at least keep its strength. And if it's in a reduction in NATO troops, there certainly ought to be a bigger reduction in Warsaw Pact troops in view of the fact that the distance involved for our particular troops further than Warsaw Pact troops. But I'm going to Europe like a lot of other people are going, but I'll be back soon. And if it's necessary for me to be back in Alabama, I'll be back before the trip's over. Good luck.